Yes, yes.
Perfect, perfect. Um, uh, Meaning there was not too much of a philosophy involved in these last few verses as such, but
Okay.
it actually gives an indication about the outcome of the war. So,
Okay.
so for meaning people like Dhritarashtra, who were not so spiritually elevated, it was a kind of a forewarning by people like Sanjay, who
Mm,
were able to see these indications,
mm,
the signs of victory for Pandavas, so
mm.
that at least at that time he can realize the mistake that is committed, and
Withdraw.
he can withdraw. Although it was also late because Kurukshetra was quite far away from Hastinapur, so it
Mm,
wouldn't have been possible for him to send somebody within a short span of time and stop the war. But still, better late than never kind of principle. He could have at least realized. So that was one of the mechanisms by which Sanjay communicated it to him.
mm.
Okay, so I'll just share the screen. By the way, I forgot to record the last week's class. I
Okay.
realized it when I wanted to upload it to YouTube. That's when I realized. My
Okay.
apologies for that.
So that's perfectly fine. I wanted to ask one thing.
Yeah,
Though I'm very new to to Gita, but all that I'm hearing from and what I know that when we are reading Gita, if we the true essence would be if we implement it in our lives. Okay.
perfect. Perfect.
So when we do shlokas day by day, we if we how about if we do a small 5 minutes or a 2 minute session on what is the learning behind it, or why was it discussed here, why did Krishna deliver this particular shlok, sort of,
Yes.
what is take home, rather than, I mean, let me know if this, how we can take it up, or if it sounds fine or not, because we may have our own philosophies also. We may have our own intakes, but if we can discuss that as a group discussion, probably a 5 or 10 minute session, and we keep a slot for this. Mm,
Very good
mm.
point. Very, very good point. So, what would you recommend? Shall we do it once the verses have been spoken about, or shall we do it before? So, I'll tell you how we are doing it in other classes. I have one class on Wednesday where the people have been sufficiently introduced to Bhagavad Gita,
Okay.
and because of that, their fundamentals are sufficiently clear. So
Mm,
what I do is every week we decide, okay, we are going to cover so and so verses,
mm,
and then we I allocate these verses to one or two verses to every person.
mm.
So they come prepared on these verses, and
Wow.
they speak whatever they understand about those verses. And wherever
Okay.
the gaps are there, I fill up those gaps.
Mm,
So that way it helps them study as well, look
mm.
forward for material from various sources,
Yeah, yeah,
link various verses with each
yeah.
other. So that also it helps. And in addition to this one, meaning as you rightly said, yes, implementing Gita in our life is actually very important. I'll go one step forward, which is what Prabhupada has taught us. In addition to implementing in your own life, we have to take efforts to help others as well implement in their life.
Mm,
So
mm,
that requires preaching also.
mm.
And when you are in in a group, when you are able to speak about your verse, about one or two verses every week, then that improves our preaching ability also.
True, true.
So we
Sir,
can take this approach.
yeah,
We
I
can.
like that Wednesday teaching approach. It's like you give it before, and we prepare for it, and we
Yeah.
have our own understanding, and then we probably have a changed understanding once you would give us this thing, about it. I have this Gita from Paramahansa Yogananda ji. So I keep going to that Gita because there is a there is a translation by him, like how to implement it, or there's a subtle translation of Gita's verses. One is a true translation, and then it's his philosophy of how to, take home sort of. So that's where I got, that if we can have this in the class, it'll be really nice.
So we can take this approach. We can have a group discussion. Maybe we can do this way also. Um, at the end of every class, let's keep 5-7 minutes aside and let us as a group discuss what did we understand about the verses that we covered today, and
Mm.
what is the takeaway for us, sort of.
Mm.
So we can actually prepare for the verses, we can study these verses in detail, and then have a group discussion as well. How does it sound? Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds fine also. So Wednesday batch, basically they have already read Gita. That's the reason you give them the verses before. And
uh,
then
Not actually. Some of them started in between also, but we have reached seventh chapter there now. So that's why they have understood the fundamentals which we were covered in the
okay,
second chapter quite in
okay,
quite detail. That's
okay,
why.
that's okay. Because I thought you want to use a different approach here. So I was trying to get the reason why you different approach here. And
Yeah.
okay, fine. You
And
know the best, yeah.
and we also take Srimad Bhagavatam class also every Saturday, and many of these devotees, they join the Saturday class also. So that way, meaning philosophy from both perspectives are getting covered. So that's why.
Okay. Mm.
We will also reach that stage. Okay. So,
Thanks.
so let's move on. Go to the verse number 21.
Sure.
I have started with Teams just 1 or 2 weeks back, and I have initiated the recording, but I don't know the quality. I don't know whether everything will come well or not. So let's try this out this time, and otherwise we will see what to do.
Okay.
Okay, now, sorry. Yeah. So let's chant verse number 21 and 22 together. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Senayurubhayormadhe
सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये
रथं स्थापय मेच्युत
रथं स्थापयमेच्युत
यावदेतान्निरीक्षेऽहम्
यावदेतान्निरीक्ष्येऽहम्
योद्धुकामानवस्थितान्
योद्धुकामानवस्थितान्
कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम्
खैर्मया सह योद्धव्यस्
अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे.
समुद्यमे.
Can anybody read the translation?
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
So Manju Mataji is reading or I'm reading? Sorry, I didn't get.
Whoever does, you can read Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in the great trial of arms.
Okay. So there is this indirect appearance of Krishna happening here now. Yeah. So he has not spoken anything yet, but Arjun is addressing Krishna. Okay. And did you notice with what word, what name is he addressing him?
Infallible. Uacha.
Yeah. So Arjuna Uvacha meaning Arjun spoke.
Okay.
Uvacha meaning spoke. Hmm? Sena yoru bhayor madhye. Sena yor meaning in the
Mm.
armies. plural.
Mm.
Ubhayor meaning both armies two, and Madhya is in between.
Between.
Ratham is the chariot. Sthapaya
Mm.
meaning situate. Mechuta. So Achyuta is in a short form. This apostrophe is used um, to silence the alphabet A. So Me and Achyuta together are spoken as Mechuta. So Achyuta is the name of Krishna, which Arjun
Achyutam
uses.
Keshu.
Yeah, correct. So that is what Krishna Arjun uses to address Krishna. Hmm.
Achyutam
Yavadetam,
meaning?
yeah, we will
Sorry.
come to that. Yeah, we will come to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Yavadetan Niriksheham, meaning uh, as long as I can see, meaning from every direction, I can only see armies and armies. Hmm. And though these people have come with the intention to fight, Yodhu Kaman. Okay, the Kaman is desire. Yodhu Kaman, the desire to fight. Kairmaya Saha Yodhavyam, meaning uh, basically in this kind of situation, um, all of these meaning who are uh, come together to fight in this run and kind of a big fight is going to happen. In the next line he will say that I want to see all of them, so he is kind of preparing that as a background here. Now a few points we need to understand. As I spoke previously also, Arjun and Krishna both have addressed each other in the first and second verse chapter, especially with different names depending on the context. Now the context is Arjun is about to ask Krishna. In the next verse he asks, please, I want to see all of them. Please take my chariot in between both the armies. I want to see all of them who have come here with a desire to fight each other. Now we can say Arjun and Krishna are friends, because that's why one friend is giving an order to another friend, which is completely fine. But Arjun is not somebody who doesn't know the position of Krishna. He knows the position. Otherwise, in the second chapter, Arjun would not have surrendered to Krishna at all as a disciple. So only when I know about somebody, the greatness of somebody, will I go and surrender myself to that somebody, right? If I consider him to be as my friend, as the same level as me, why will I surrender? So Arjun knows the level of Krishna, Arjun knows who Krishna is. And despite that, he is giving an order to Krishna to take the chariot. Imagine if Narendra Modi or Joe Biden or Sheikh Mohammed comes to our house. Will we give him an order? Okay, please, can you drive me up to Bardubai? Of course not, right? We know our level, we know our
True.
status, and we know their status also. So despite that, Arjun is saying this one. Now this doesn't belittle Arjun's position, but it enhances Krishna's position. So when we give order to our driver, it is because we are the master, he is a servant, right? That is the attitude when somebody gives an order to somebody. Here, when Arjun gives an order, he knows Krishna's position, but despite that, he is giving an order because at that point of time, Krishna is performing the role of a charioteer, whereas Arjun is the host. He is actually being driven by the charioteer. Now, Arjun knows his role, Arjun knows Krishna's role, but despite that, he has to give order. And that is the reason he is calling him as Achyuta. Achyuta meaning infallible. Infallible meaning one who can never fall down from his position. It is not applicable to when we walk on the streets and sometimes we fall down. That doesn't mean that person who falls or doesn't fall is Achyuta. So Achyuta applies to the position. For example, if a father who is supposed to protect the children and the family, if he is unable to give protection for whatever reason, he cannot be called as Achyuta, meaning he has fallen down from the position of a father to the level of an ordinary person. If a mother who is supposed to feed the children, if she is unable to do, that means she has fallen down from the position. If a politician who is supposed to selflessly serve the country, if he involves in some kind of corruption, then we say he has fallen down from the position. If a politician or a government administrator or something like that, meaning there is a position that is allocated to you and you are supposed to perform a certain role and have certain responsibilities. If you are unable to perform, then it is called as you have fallen down from the position. So achyuta meaning the one who never falls down from his position. That means the one who always remains true to his role, his responsibilities, his duties, everything. And that is Krishna. Okay. Now, what's so great about it? Anybody has any idea? So what if Arjun has ordered Krishna to take the chariot? What is meaning so weird about it? Any idea? Why are we talking so much about Krishna being the charioteer uh, and Arjun being driven and he calls by Achyut and all that? Why is even Sanjay referring to this one? What's so great about it?
Is it that Krishna is guiding Arjuna in the whole thing on and giving him directions on what is right and what is wrong?
So far in Gita, it has not started yet. You're right. Krishna has done that throughout Bhagavad Gita, but so far it has not started. So in this context, why it is important, we need to understand the civil situation at that time. Okay. When a charioteer is driving the chariot and taking the fighter, the person who is fighting from one place to another, the situation on the battlefield is such that there are arrows coming from various angles. There are dead bodies on the battlefield. There is huge amount of sound coming from various, meaning horse sound of horses, sound of chariots. There is dust all over the place and various factors are there, because of which what happens, the communication between the king and the charioteer cannot be based on just the mouth, meaning just the sound cannot be the method of communication. Because if the charioteer or if the king speaks something to the charioteer, he may not be able to hear it. So that's why the another form of communication is used, and that is, you would be surprised, and uh, when the king wants a charioteer to take the chariot on the left side, the king kicks, of course, mildly. The king kicks the charioteer on the left side. So, with his left leg, he will kick the charioteer on the left side. And if he wants the direction to be on the right, then he would kick with his right leg on the right side of the charioteer. Now, this is the mechanism in which signals were given by the king to the charioteer. Now, this is the same mechanism Arjun was required to implement with Krishna. So you at one end, you know who that person is. Let's say Sheikh Mohammed comes to us and he gracefully accepts to become our driver. Will we indicate the direction to him with such a mechanism? Definitely not. But Arjun had to do that. So despite Arjun kicking Krishna, Krishna does not become an ordinary person. He still remains the supreme God. Absolutely nobody is equal to him or greater than him. And that is why the word Achyut becomes very important. That despite taking the kicks of his pure devotee Arjun, Krishna still remains the supreme God. And that is why the word Achyut is being used by Arjun here. Isn't it interesting? Now, the Lord and his devotee, there is always a excellent relationship between all of them. So we will, when we go forward in Bhagavad Gita, especially when we talk about Bhakti Yoga, you will be able to appreciate this one, that the Lord and the devotee, the relationship that they share is such that the devotee is finding out new mechanisms to serve the Lord. The constant effort from the devotee is there to find out how can I serve the Lord. And the Lord is also doing the same thing. The Lord is also trying to constantly find out mechanisms by which he can serve the devotee. So here this relationship is like a tussle. Who is able to serve the other one more? The Lord is trying to serve the devotee more, and the devotee is trying to serve the Lord more than the Lord himself. So this relationship is actually called as bhakti. So wherein the objective is not to serve yourself, to benefit from serving others. The objective is selflessly serve the Lord, or in the case of Lord, the devotee. Now, why did
Sir,
Arjun ask?
how,
Yeah, please.
sir, how and I mean, why are we using the term that Lord would serve the servant? Uh, like,
So, yeah, yeah, very good point. So, what happens is we have children at home, right? So, the mother serves the child in various ways, right? She cooks food, she bathes the children, puts on clothes to them, feeds them, plays with them, teaches them, so many things, right? And the child
yeah.
also reciprocates, right? It gives selfless love to the mother also, right? when
Hmm.
when the teacher teaches the student, the student also pays back in terms of gratitude, in terms of dates, whatever it is, right, to the teacher. So both are doing a selfless job. Similarly, because the devotee is never thinking about himself when it comes to serving the Lord also
Hmm.
ignores anything and everything and runs after the devotee to serve him. And that is the pure relationship between Krishna and Srimati Radharani, right?
Hmm.
So we have seen
Got
so many incidents, right, where our saints from various places of India. I remember one incident with Santa Tukaram. So one day, this person Aurangzeb had come to capture Shivaji, and Tukaram was desperately praying to Lord Vitthal to protect him. And it so happened that Aurangzeb and his people, when they came, for them everybody looked like Shivaji, so he was not able to capture Shivaji. Now, who did this? Of course, the Lord. And for why? Because Tukaram Maharaj was calling out for Lord Vittal to protect Shivaji. Now, these are the kind of the services that the Lord gives to the devotee, and there are many incidents are there, and Srimad Bhagavatam is full of such incidents. When Lord Narasimha Dev came from the pillar to protect his devotee Prahlad, it was a form of service, pure love.
Hmm.
Okay, now we will go to the next verse and then we will take a question which relates to the current verse. Yeah, why did Arjun request to see the Kaurava warriors? Why is it surprising? So let's take that question when we move to the next verse. So text 23. योत्स्यमानानवेक्षेऽहम्
योत्स्यमानानावेक्ष्यम्
य एतेऽत्र समागताः
य
य
एते
एते
तेऽत्र
अत्र समागताः
समागताः
भारतराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धे
धार्तराष्ट्रस्य
राष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धे
दुर्बुद्धेर्यस्य
ते प्रियचिकीर्षवः.
युधे प्रिया चिकीर्षवः.
प्रियचिकीर्षवः
Translation, anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Sarvat
Krishna.
Pranam, Prabhu. Sorry for joining late.
No problem, Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining.
Translation: Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra.
Yeah. So the hurt that Arjun has for whatever Duryodhan has done to him, uh, it is more, that hurt is less compared to the hurt that all the Pandavas have for the actions of Duryodhan being supported by Dhritarashtra, which means Duryodhan did quite a few incorrect things, but Dhritarashtra, despite being in a position of disciplining him and penalizing him, he did not. Instead, he supported him as well. So that hurt is so much that he is using the word Dhartarashtra, uh, sons of Dhritarashtra. He could have at least said directly, Duryodhana and brothers, but he's saying sons of Dhritarashtra. So, and he's using the word Durbuddhe, yeah, evil minded. So, Yotsya Manana, meaning they have come here to fight. Uh, Avekshe Aham, meaning I want to see those people. Etetra Samagata, meaning those who have assembled here, I want to see them. Okay. Dhartarashtrasya Durbuddhe, meaning the sons of Dhritarashtra and the evil-minded son, meaning now he is focusing on the, meaning their intelligence level, their intentions basically. They are Durbuddhe, meaning they lack intelligence, they are foolish people and evil-minded. Yuddhe Priya Chikirshava, meaning they wish to fight. So I want to basically see to you please take my chariot in between these both those armies. I want to see people who have assembled to find, and I also want to see those people who have come especially to fight to please this evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Okay, now so some points come up here, especially relating it with the previous verse. So Arjun has requested Krishna to take the chariot in between both the warriors, both the armies, and he wants to see the Kaurava warriors. So now what has happened here is, we'll take a small example, after which we will understand the context here. Yeah, let's say cricket World Cup is going on. India and Pakistan are in final, let's say for example, and both these teams have played wonderfully in the previous matches and have reached the final, and a big kind of a spirit is there, a huge spirit is there, and lot of hype has been created about this match. And the first ball, meaning the day of the match starts, both the teams are on the ground. The India is batting and Pakistan is bowling, and the first ball is about to be bowled. At that time, Arjun, or at that time, the cricketer, the batsman who is at the striker's end, he comes to the non-striker end batsman and he tells, I don't want to play. Imagine what will be the situation if, let's say, the at the non-striker end, it's the captain of the team, and this person who is saying he's the best batsman in the team, he's saying I don't want to play. Or he says, I want to see all the people who are in the playing 11 of Pakistan. I want to see all of them. Would it not be surprising? Meaning, you know very well who are the playing 11 in the opposite team. You know all of them very well. You know their caliber, you know their strengths, weaknesses, you know everything. But you are saying that, please, can you take the chariot in between both the armies? I want to see all of them who have come here assembled to fight, especially to please the evil minded son of Dhritarashtra. So this is the context, and that's why it is so surprising that Arjun asks Krishna to bring that chariot in the bit in between both the armies. So now you can probably link this to say, uh, why Arjuna's request is incorrect, and a few verses later we will also see it is because of this particular request that the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken, and we will see why this has happened then. Now you would also see this particular verse 1.22 here. has only one single line. Did anybody notice this? Yeah. So why did this happen? Okay. So in Bhagavad Gita, we have two types of verses. One verse is of 32 syllables, and the second type of verse is 48 syllables. Okay. So these words, if you see, and how do we count the syllables? Let's take this particular example. Okay, the alphabets which have individual pronunciation are counted as one. So kair maya meaning kair ma ya. So three here. Saha, that is sa and ha, that is five. Yodhavyam, that is 8. Yodhavyam. So kair maya saha yodhavyam. So we take a pause at this point. So that is half the line spoken. And asmin rana samudyame. Okay. So this ma that you see here, that ma is full, but it is actually joined by two words. So the um of this yodhavyam, you see, we don't say yodhavyama, we say yodhavyam. That means that ma is half. And the next word starts with asmin rana samudyame. See this one, a is here. So this a and the previous mix together, which becomes ma. So that's why when we count this one, the ma is not counted as a pronunciated syllable separately. Instead, a is counted as a syllable. So asmin, that is two, rana, that is two more, four, samudyame, four. So eight. So this line is of 16 syllables. Okay, that way there are few verses which have 12 plus 12, 24 syllables in a line, and together the verse contains 48 syllables. So similarly, if you do the counting here, you will see 16 in this line and 16 in this line. That's where it comes 32 syllables. And some of the other verses, they have 48 syllables, 24 plus 24. Now, previously in one of the verses, yeah, here in this verse, we had three lines. Okay, so now in this particular verse, we have one line. So it balances out. So together 700 verses means there are 1400 lines. So some verses may have three lines. Then to balance it out, some verses will have one line. And this is just technical information. Doesn't make any difference to the meaning of it. Is everything okay? Shall I move on to the next verse? Any question?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, one question is there.
Ah,
Now, uh, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna is in front of his relatives, brothers, and so similar kind of situation happened when Arjuna and Pandavas, they were in Agyatwas, and the place I think was Virar.
Virat.
And Virat and Kauravas, they came with all their armies and all, and Arjuna was alone there.
Correct.
So, but there he was not having any single doubt to
Correct.
fight, right?
Correct.
And enemy and confrontation was same, brothers were same, his Acharya, Guru, they,
Yeah.
everybody was there. He
Correct.
was a single, he was clear what he has to do, but now having such a knowledgeable person, how come he bewildered again? Means bewilder here.
Excellent question, Prabhuji. Firstly, many thanks for this question. Very wonderful question. So, Prabhu, we need to go back a little bit here. Okay. First, at a very basic level, I'm trying to give a detailed answer to this. So, if I'm going into too much of details, please stop me. We'll have to understand why Mahabharat happened. Okay, so Kali Yuga was in a short while Kali Yuga would have started. So Kali Yuga, the quality of people, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, the quality of people is very bad. They have a very short life. They have a very bad memory, very poor intelligence, they're very quarrelsome, and meaning very unfortunate. Many bad qualities of people are there in Kali Yuga. Okay, so now for such people, studying Vedas and trying to understand the meaning and all is impossible. So now there has to be something, some philosophy given in the form that is suitable for them to understand. So when we see a movie in, say, let's say 20-minute movie, we gather more understanding about the aspect that is being taught than if we were to read a book for 2 hours. Why? Because our grasping capacity is less. That is the reason why studying Vedas is not so simple for people like us. But the same message, when it is conveyed via real life incidents like Mahabharata, then it becomes simple to understand. That is the reason why Mahabharata was dramatized to happen, so that people in Kali Yuga can look forward to such incidents, understand the drawbacks of certain incidents and the positives of it, and then understand what is right, what is wrong, and then apply in our own life. That is the reason why Mahabharata has happened. In addition to this one, uh, if we were to study Vedas and Puranas and Ishopanishads and Upanishads and Samhitas and all that, our life will be completely insufficient to read the whole of all of this. That is where a crux, the essence of the teachings of all of them was required. That is what Bhagavad Gita is. So, in the fourth chapter, when the Lord says that paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, paritranaya sadhunam, that is protection of pious people and the annihilation of miscreants, yeah, demoniac people, that was anyway going to happen via the war. So even if he hadn't spoken Bhagavad Gita and hadn't Arjun got bewildered, the war would have happened, and Arjun Pandavas would have killed Kauravas, and both the purposes would have been achieved. But the key purpose, that is Dharma Samsthapanarthaya, that wouldn't have happened had Bhagavad Gita not been spoken. So it was required that Krishna creates an environment by which he gets an opportunity to speak Bhagavad Gita. And that is the reason you will see in the subsequent verses. Today itself, we will see that he purposely places the chariot in front of Drona and Bhishma, so that Arjun becomes overwhelmed with compassion, and then he speaks that he doesn't want to fight. So Arjun was not mentally imbalanced because he asked this. Arjun was quite fine, but it was Krishna who created that environment, so that Arjun comes into that position. He asks question, Krishna gets an opportunity to speak, and Bhagavad Gita is revealed to us. So it is actually the Sutradhar is Krishna in the whole equation. Okay, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So I understood that about the perspective from Bhagavad Gita point of view. But what happened in the Virat case?
Hmm.
He was in that situation. Arjuna was, I think, fine, right?
Yes, he was completely fine at that time. And
Okay.
there was another reason for him to be fine, was because he was in that Agyatwas and he was experiencing the pain received by him because of those 12 years of Vanvas and one year of Agyatwas. So that blood was still boiling. But here, a little amount of time was elapsed on top of that one, and that's why he was anyway ready to fight in both the cases. But the key aspect of this one is Krishna has put him in that position, because of which he becomes bewildered, because of which he becomes sentimental, and he expresses his desire not to fight. Otherwise, Arjun was a capable warrior. He was never cowardly, and he was never kind of somebody who will take a step back for whatever reason from the war.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
So let's quickly go through these verses. Now, these verses 24 to 27 don't have too much of philosophy, so we can cover it rapidly. Sanjaya Uvacha
Sanjay Uvacha
Eva Mukto Rishikesho
Eva
Evam
Eva
ukto
mukto
Rishikesha
rishikesho
Gudakeshena Bharata
Gudakeshena
gudakeshena
Bharata
Gudakeshena
bharata
Bharata
Senayorubhayormadhye
senayor
Senayorubhayoramadhye
ubhayoramadhye
Sthapayitva Rathottamam.
स्थापयित्वा
स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमम्
रथोत्तमम्.
Translation. Who's reading?
Sanjay said, sorry, Manjuji, you continue.
Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties.
Okay. So there are only two, 3 points that we need to look at. So Sanjay Uvacha meaning Sanjay said, Evam Ukta Rushi Keshaha. So you will see in Sanskrit these uh, aha and are very much used in all the verses. So Rushikesha meaning unto Rushikesha, meaning in English language also we have the subject of the action and the object of action. So on whom is the action performed, that becomes the subject of action, and by whom is the action performed is the object of action. So when the subject of action is being referred to, it is aha, and when the object of action is being referred to, it is aha and So Rushikesha meaning unto Rushikesh. Who spoke to whom? Arjun spoke to Rushikesh. That's why. Okay. Now Gudakeshena. Gudakesh is the word used, or I would say name used for um, Arjun here. What does Gudakesh mean? So we'll look at two different meanings. The first meaning is Gudaka means sleep, and Isha meaning controller. So you might remember that um, Arjun had controlled his sleep, meaning he had conquered his sleep, which means if he doesn't want to sleep, he will never feel sleepy and he will be active completely. So one fine day, it had happened that Bhim was eating and Arjun was sitting beside him. And it was evening time, and Bhim had lit up one lamp, and with due to that light, Bhim was able to eat. And somehow a gust of wind came, and the lamp was extinguished. And still Bhim continued to eat. So Arjun asked him curiously, "What is how are you able to eat when you cannot see where your hand is?" So Bhim said that it is only because I love to eat and have practiced a lot of eating. That's why my hand properly goes into my mouth. So that is when Arjun realizes that practice is what he needs to do if he has to become the best archer. And that is when he realized that I cannot get sufficient practice during the daytime, so I have to practice at night time. And that is when he started practicing at night time as well. And then he gave up his sleep altogether, and he used to practice continuously at night also. And that is how he has been addressed as Gudakesha. Now this is the kind of a meaning at a superficial level, meaning what we can see from the top. Internally internally sleep represents ignorance. Ignorance is called as tamogun. So we have these three gunas: sattvagun, rajogun, and tamogun. So sleep represents tamogun. So when a person feels too much sleepy, waking up at night, so at morning 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock times and all that, or sleeping late at night and all that. So he is basically into the mode of tamogun. And then there is obviously this impacts the spiritual progress also. Arjun had not just controlled sleep, Arjun had controlled tamogun also completely. And that is what Sanjay actually intends to communicate this to Dhritarashtra, that it is not an ordinary person who is asking his chariot to be taken there. It is a person who has controlled tamogun is asking the chariot to be taken there. Now, Bharata is another word you will see. Bharata meaning descendant of Bharat. Bharat is King Bharat, from whom the name Bharat was given to India. So Bharat and all the descendants of Bharat will be addressed as Bharat. And in this particular verse, Dhritarashtra as well as Arjun both are addressed as Bharat here. Okay. Please stop me at any time when you think you have questions. Otherwise, I will proceed here. Okay, text 25. Bhishma
So
Drona Pramuktaha. Sorry.
Bhishma
Drona
Drona
Pramukhah
Pramuktaha
Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam.
Sarveshasham cha
Sarvesham
Mahikshitam
Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan.
Vacha
Vacha
Partha
Partha
Pashyaitan
Pashitam
Samavetan Kuru Niti.
Samavetan Kuruniti.
Translation.
Yes, Prabhu, I will read. Hare Krishna. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chief chieftains of the world, the Lord said, "Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here."
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Bhishma Drona Pramuktaha. Pramuktaha meaning primarily in front of Bhishma and Drona. Okay, so that way, if you place one chariot beside the other, obviously 50, 60 warriors together, you cannot have your chariot in front of everybody. It has to be in front of one or two chariots, right? So Bhishma Drona Pramukta, in front of Bhishma and Drona's chariots primarily. What happened? The chariot of Arjun was placed by Krishna in front of Bhishma and Drona's chariot, right? And what happened? Then Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan. Uvacha Partha meaning Arjun Uvacha meaning Arjun spoke. Uvacha Partha here in this case is to Partha Uvacha meaning somebody spoke, and who that somebody could be? Obviously Lord Krishna. What did Lord Krishna say? Pashya etan. Yeah, Krishna said Pashya meaning see, etan meaning these. Okay, Samavetan Kuruniti. The all the members of this Kuru dynasty, they have assembled here. Samavetan. Look at all of them. So Prabhupada translates, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here. Okay. So now this is a statement which also initiates that thought process and the emotional process within Arjun, based on which he starts providing his reasons why he should not fight. Okay. Very important. This verse and the surrounding is basically objective of Krishna was to ensure that Arjun becomes overwhelmed with compassion, with grief. He becomes bewildered with the meaning unable to take the right decision, so that he asks intelligent questions, so that Krishna can reveal Bhagavad Gita. So we are now reaching that particular point when Arjun will start speaking in one or two verses, right? Now you will see Krishna has spoken this verse indirectly, meaning it is not a direct speech by Arjun, by Krishna, which is referenced as Shri Bhagwan Uvacha. This verse is spoken by, this line was spoken by Krishna, but communicated to us by Sanjay. That's why you will not see Shri Bhagwan Uvacha here. Now, if you remember 2, 3 verses back, I told that it is this particular verse which is the cause of Arjun's grief. Yeah. So now we'll see this. The word usage of the word pasha and its synonyms have come few times before, and they will come again and again in subsequent verses also. So in 1.21 we saw Arjun says yavad etan niriksheham, that means nirikshan. Yeah, it's basically to observe. It again relates to eyes. I want to see. In 1.23 also Arjun said yotsya manana veksheham, avekshe, I see, let me see. Okay. And now here pasya etan, Krishna says see this, you wanted to see, now you can see. And in 26 Sanjay says tatra pasya sthitan partha, meaning there he could see. And again in 1.27 we will see that subsequently tan samiksha, meaning after seeing all of them. So look at the context here. I want to see, then let me see, then now you can see, and there he could see, and after seeing all of them. Now what is Arjun saying? I can see only causes of misfortune, because he was seeing with his physical eyes, he was not able to see from the eyes of the Shastra. He was not able to see from the eyes of the scriptures. He was seeing from the eyes of the physical eyes. Now, why this importance is there? That is because when we are in material world, we always use our eyes to gather information, of not always, but at least in most of the cases, our eyes are a gateway to the external world. Hmm? But our ears are actually the way out of the illusion. Meaning, when we when it comes to scriptures, we hear the scripture and we gather the meaning out of it. But when it comes to eyes, we see the form, but we get bewildered by the form. So our eyes are a gateway to illusion, and our ears are the solution to that illusion. So we have to understand the spiritual aspect via our ears. That's why you will see Tat Shrunu is what Krishna uses. Shrunu, meaning hear, is what Krishna emphasizes also. Meaning when it comes to gathering spiritual knowledge, hearing is more important than seeing. Okay, now we'll just quickly look at these two verses, if you don't mind.
Sir, can we go little slow? It becomes too much to grasp, basically. Not
Okay,
just understand, but then again, the take home becomes zero, I feel, because I, at least my pace is like that. We've read four, five,
okay.
the essence of the first, then the second, third. By now, I've forgotten what the first verse was and what was the essence of it.
Okay, so can we do one thing? These lectures are getting recorded and they will be uploaded to YouTube also. Maybe once we are through with this one, it would be good if you can just play back these videos and maybe you can recollect whatever has been spoken. Will that work?
Yeah, but then we'll not discuss what's the essence of all the verses that we are reading.
No, for today or for first chapter, it is okay. Or maybe from next week we can do it, because if not a philosophy, but at least Arjun starts asking questions to Krishna. Maybe we can do it at that time. These verses that we are doing today are not do not have too much of a philosophy. Or do you think we should stop here and then discuss what we have covered today?
So I think there is a lot of learnings to be taken home, which we just keep missing at the
Okay.
to catch up the pace of completing the verses. That's my honest
Yeah,
opinion.
I'll give you the reason why meaning going a bit fast is required. Meaning I'm not saying that this helps in understanding. Yeah, of course, going slow helps a lot in understanding. But the drawback of going slow, I'll explain to you. Okay, so we'll put a stop here and we will do 26 and 27 next week. What happens, I'll tell you. So Bhagavad Gita has 700 verses. If we take, let's say, for example, four or maximum five verses every week, then
Mm.
practically speaking, we will need 150 weeks uh, to complete. Now,
Mm.
there are times when July, August, or December or March, the schools are closed, people go on vacations. So almost around 20% of the time is gone in this one. So 150 becomes actually 180, 190 weeks, which means practically 4 years.
Mm.
Now, I don't have a problem in continuing for 4 years. The longevity becomes a problem for many of the people.
Yeah.
I have seen many people whose job situation changes. Sometimes they take up a new job, they have to travel a lot, or sometimes they get stuck in traffic of some kind.
Mm.
Sometimes they lose the job or something like that. So because of which they are unable to continue. And what the drawback of not being able to continue is, if they leave Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavad Gita, by the time third, fourth chapter is going on, the only understanding they develop is karma kar and fal ki chinta mat kar. So
Mm.
majority of the people, if you ask them what is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, they will say the only teaching of Bhagavad Gita is karma kar fal ki chinta mat kar. But that is not the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. That is one of the teachings. But the supreme teaching is there in 18.65 and 18.66. Until that time, majority of the people don't stay back. So what my objective is, even if you do not understand in depth, no problem, at least understand the overview. And we will always have one more class again starting later. So where the more details can be understood.
Right.
And this is actually this point I wanted to take up at the start of second chapter, because in some of the classes I have seen I go too much in depth, but then people leave over a period of time, because of which for completing second chapter it took me almost 6 months, and then I decided no, I have to change my approach.
Mm.
So wherever it is necessary, we will go in depth. Like for example, the 27th verse of third chapter, it's very critical to understand. And that verse, I took one full class on that, 1 hour. Yeah. So wherever it is necessary, uh, I will go in depth as much possible. But wherever these verses are, meaning they don't have too much of philosophy, we can move on faster, if that is okay with you.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So shall we stop for the day, or what do you prefer?
Up to you.
There is not much philosophy in these both these verses 26 and 27. So
Sure,
if you
sure,
are
we can go ahead.
so if you are just okay for 2-3 minutes, we can.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so let's do it. 26. Tatra pashyat sthitan parthah
तत्र पश्यत् स्थितान् पात्रः
pitrunath pitamahan
नथ पितामहान्
acharyan matulan bhratrun
आकार्यान् मातुलान् भारतीन्
पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा
पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखिंस्तथा
श्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव
परशुरान् सुरहश्चैव
सेनयोरुभयोरपि.
सेनयोरुभयोरपि.
Translation.
There Arjuna could see, within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and all his father-in-laws and well-wishers.
So this verse is important because these are he is talking about, Sanjay is speaking what all different types of relatives is Arjun able to see in the in between both the armies. So he is looking at a whole variety of relatives and from various generations, and not just the Pandav side but the Kaurav side also, both the sides. Okay, so he's referring to both of them, and uh, he wants to see for one more reason, that he's saying that if these warriors are killed by me or by some other warriors, I will never be able to see them again. So he wants to see them for one last time. And this seeing is actually the reason why Arjun becomes overwhelmed with compassion and grief. Okay, so tatra pashyat, tatra meaning after that, apashyat sthitan partha, meaning Arjun is standing and he could see Pitrun Pitamahan, meaning Pitrun is fathers, Pitamahan is grandfathers, Acharyan, meaning teachers, Matulan, meaning maternal uncles, Bhratrun, meaning brothers, Putran, Pautran, meaning sons and grandson, and Sakhim Statha, meaning friends. Shvasuran, that is father-in-law, Surada, meaning well-wishers. All of these from Sena Yoru Bhayorapi, Ubhayorapi, meaning from both the parties. Now, I will not go into too much of detail when he says Pitra, whom did he refer to, or Pitamahan, whom did he refer to. For us at this point of time, it is just important to understand that he has seen different types of relatives. Here, Vasudev is not there. Yeah. He did not fight the war, and because he did not fight because Balram decided not to take part in the war, neither on the Pandav side nor on the Kaurav side. And the Yadavas, uh, included Vasudev also, they also decided to follow what Balram was doing and to remain neutral. So last verse, Tan Samiksha Sakaunteya
Tan samikshaya sakaunteya
Sarvan Bandhun Avasthitan
sarvan
सर्वान्
bandhun avasthitan
बन्धून् अवस्थितान्
कृपया परयाविष्टो
kripaya paryavisto
विषिदन्निदमब्रवीत्.
visadanni abravit.
Translation.
When
When
the
this,
sun, yeah, Garima Mataji, go ahead, please.
sure, thank you. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with the compassion and spoke thus.
Yes. So Tan Samiksha meaning after that Samiksha is to see all of them. Sa Kaunteya, the Kaunteya meaning the son of Kunti. Sarvan Bandhun Avasthitan, all kinds of relatives. Yeah, Avasthitan is situated on the battlefield. Kripaya Paraya Vishto, overwhelmed by compassion. Avishta meaning of a kind of a high grade. Okay. Vishidan, that is, he was very much lamenting and he spoke. Abravit, he spoke. Okay. Now, in this thing, let us see just one or two terms here. Krupa is the word used here. Krupaya is the word used. So, Krupa is the base word from which Krupaya is there. So, there are two words in Sanskrit, Daya and Krupa. So, both denote compassion. Okay. So, Daya means it's a kind of compassion for everybody. Okay, and meaning when you do daya on animals, when you show compassion to animals also it is called as daya, it is not called as krupa. But when you do when you show compassion for known people, your relatives and all that, it is called as kripa. So that is the difference between daya and krupa. Daya for all, kripa for selective known people. Okay, and then kripa is basically mercy. Kripaya means compassion. What comes out of that mercy is compassion. Okay. So one who has mercy within actually displays compassion. Okay. Uh, Now, one very important point that we need to understand here is there are certain people who say that Arjun was coward. He was afraid of Kauravas. That's why he didn't want to fight. Yeah. So let's look at this verse has been spoken by none other than Sanjay, who was the charioteer of Dhritarashtra, which means he was on the side of Kauravas. That person, Sanjay, is using the word Kripaya. It is not Krishna who spoke this verse. It is not Arjun or Yudhishthir or anybody on the Pandav side. It is Sanjay who has spoken and he has used the word Kripaya. which clearly indicates that it is out of compassion that he spoke the following verses to Krishna. And the same word he uses in 2.1 also. Okay, so we will see that. So it actually defeats that argument that Arjun was a coward. Arjun was not a coward, and Arjun was overwhelmed only with compassion and grief because he has to fight and kill so many people. That's why he did not want to fight. Hare Krishna. Thank you, and uh, we can stop the class today.
Yes,
Any
sir.
any question?
No, sir.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
Hare
So
Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. I'll upload the recording. I hope this has recorded well. This is my
Sure.
first time recording on Teams, so let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna.
Alex.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks, Prabhuji.